Welcome friends, today we're going to talk about vintage bottles and collecting vintage bottles and buying vintage bottles. So let's take a look at some vintage bottles. First up we have Paco Rabanne Perfume. This is a vintage bottle. Uh, I like this a lot better than the new reformulated version. We have Island Gardenia. This is very floral, but I like it, even though I'm a guy. We have Vintage Fahrenheit, and I really dig this one a lot better than the new version. We have English Leather. This is also one I like better than the new version. We have Diva, which is also a female perfume, but I wear it. I like it. It's very animalic. It's got some rose in there. It's definitely, if you look on Ferganiga on the Gender Bender series, they talk about it. It's definitely could be unisex. We have Pierre Cardin vintage. We have Cote Musk vintage. We have lots of vintage bottles. We have Sands and Sable vintage. We have the original Gucci Pour Homme vintage. And this one, I really dig this one too. A lot. We have more vintage Pierre Cardin. We have vintage Salvador Dali. Raw Vanilla. Halston Z. Could only get small bottles of this. Of Fragrance Net. We have Emerald. Lots of Emerald. I didn't even bring all my vintage bottles of Emerald, but it's one of my favorites besides Shalimar. And so, when buying vintage, obviously you're either going to be able to get it in trading, buying it from another collector or trading, or getting it off eBay. Now the thing is with buying eBay, you have to be cautious of the sellers, and you have to make sure that they have really good positive feedback and that the bottle has been stored properly, and that's kind of hard to do when you're online. So there is some risk. There's been some vintage bottles that I bought that have not smelled too good. I had some vintage bottles of Chanel No. 5, and those didn't smell too good. So I chucked them, threw them in the trash. Vintage Jacquard Noir, it didn't smell too right to me, so chucked that one in the trash. Vintage Youth Dew, didn't smell right, chucked that one in the trash. So sometimes you will get some bad bottles that don't smell right, and that's one of the risks with buying vintage. So you really have to make sure that the seller has a good rating and that they're selling you good quality vintage bottles. Now, the advantages to buying vintage is that, one, you get sometimes rare stuff like this that's discontinued, just no longer on the market, and stuff like this, Pierre Cardin or Paco Rabanne or even English Leather, you get it, you get the original scent without the reformulation, which means it smells exactly like how it's supposed to smell. When they reformulate this stuff now, it doesn't smell exactly the same as it did back then. So that's an advantage to buying a vintage. You get the perfume or the cologne to smell the way that it was supposed to smell. You have to be very careful. This was listed as vintage. I mean, it's probably old, but it's not vintage because it says it was produced by Elizabeth Arden, and this is a Halston catalyst. And I know for a fact that Elizabeth Arden did not originally produce Halston, so this may be an older bottle, but it's not a vintage. So you really got to look out for that with the Zellers. Um, it still smells really great. It's a nice, fresh, spicy cinnamon scent. I really like it. So even though it's not really the original, it's still better, better than what I could expect out of Elizabeth Arden. Um, and I like I like the vintage bottles. I like how they look. Um, you know, you get the feel of how the perfumes were back then when they were made. Definitely different from when they reformulate them. Like the new Pierre Cardins, they don't have Pierre Cardin written on the bottle. They don't have the Pierre Cardin on the top. Um, and they're just made by some cheesy company that buys out perfumes now, like 5-star fragrances or something like that. So there's advantages and disadvantages. Um, like this is a cheapie, but it probably definitely smells different than the new version. I'm not really sure what the new version smells like. I just know I like this vintage version a lot. This smells better than the new version. This is definitely more. You get more of the woods. With the new version, you just get a bunch of musk. With Pierre Cardin, it smells pretty much the same, but this has a little bit more oak moss to it and stuff. With Vintage Emerald, you definitely get more of a better powderiness, a better citrus. The new one, it smells kind of the new version of this. It smells kind of generic and just the citrus is really cheap. So definitely, if you're getting this one, you want to go with the vintage. And this bottle is really awesome. And this is hard to find, so I can only buy this in a vintage bottle. And I actually got a good deal on it, and this smells awesome. Diva, I don't know how the new version smells, but I went for a vintage bottle just because I was reading the notes and I figured it would smell better in vintage. This, I wanted to see how it smelled compared to the new Dana version, and this smells a lot better. You definitely smell the leather more. Leather and citrus. Oak moss. It's definitely nicer. And this one, raw vanilla, it's very nice and woody. It's discontinued, so this is discontinued and vintage. So some vintage bottles will be actually discontinued. And you have to be careful because also vintage and rare and discontinued bottles, some of them can get quite expensive. So you have to look for the best deals, but you also have to look for a quality seller that's going to give you a quality product. And with this, luckily FragranceNet had it in these little bottles. Haven't seen a big bottle yet. I just got 2 of them. I just put them in a little decanter, one of them. And this is nice for Halston. It's very woodsy, citrusy. I like it a lot. Salvador Dali, also, I was reading the notes, and I really wanted to buy the vintage of this, just because I don't know what the new version that they came out with is going to smell like. I just know that the original is really awesome. Also with Paco Rabanne, Pour Home, where did that bottle go? It fell on the floor. This definitely has more of the oak moss that the new one doesn't. And the new one has like this, like really soapy, like opening, and this does not have that soapiness in it. It's got more woods, more oak moss, more earthy. more beautiful. So that's advantages to buying vintage. So I will be doing some reviews on some of these vintage bottles. Maybe doing versus like this versus the new one, and stuff like that. So you know, I'm I'm satisfied with pretty much most of my vintage purchases, except for the ones that I said that didn't really work out too well. And you get quality juice the way it was supposed to be made. So there you go. That's just a quick thing on vintage bottles and perfume and colognes. So yeah, look for more to come. All right, thanks. Bye.